Good evening. Notice of a regular meeting of the City of Friendswood Planning and Zoning Commission to be held Thursday, February 11th, 2019, beginning at 7 p.m. in the council chambers at City Hall located at 910 South Friendswood Drive, Friendswood, Texas. The Planning and Zoning Commission public hearing is called to order. We will now receive comments from the public, both oral and written, regarding first, a zone classification change at 402 East Edgewood Drive from Plan Unit Development Specific Use PUD SUP 2015-26 to a revised Plan Unit Development Specific Use Permit PUD/SUP to add NAICS use number 8121 Personal Care Services. Aubrey, excuse me.
Yeah, I think you said February 11th.
Oh, did I really?
So can we clarify that to be July 11th?
How about July?
Yes, that's much better.
Well, I make usually at least one of those, so maybe I got it out of the way. Thank you.
Thank you. So this is zone classification change. It's an existing planned unit development with a specific use permit on the property already. It's been amended several times in the past. The history was in your rezoning reports. The only thing proposed in this is to add an additional use that would be allowed. Because it is a PUD slash SUP, this is the way a lot of the properties were zoned back in the late 80s, early 90s. And so only the uses that are written in that ordinance is what's allowed. So the applicant or property owner would like to add personal care services, specifically a nail salon that wants to go in that existing building. The previous tenant in there was the Paisley Lane Boutique, and so he's just looking for a new tenant.
Great, thank you. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak for making these changes? Please step forward to the podium. State your name, please.
David Offenberger. I am the owner of the building, and I would like to use the building for that purpose.
Okay. Any further comments?
Not unless you have any questions.
No, sir.
Thank
you. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak against making these changes? Seeing none, the next item is a zone classification change at 103, 105, and 107 Shadwell Lane to change from planned unit development PUD 2016-01 to revised planned unit development. Aubrey?
Yes, sir. This is another one that's a planned unit development, so it's a specific ordinance written for this property. The building at 107 Shadwell Lane was the blue two-story house. The building has been demolished. It received significant damage during Hurricane Harvey. And so they are rebuilding another building. Part of the PUD is the elevations of the buildings that are permitted on the property. And so that's the reason for the amendment to the PUD. So the new elevations of the new building will be included in this ordinance. They were in your backup material. It will match the other two buildings that are already located at 103 and 105. And there are existing license agreements for them to extend and build more on-street parking on Shadwell for those businesses.
Great, thank you. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak for making these changes? Seeing none. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak against making these changes? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move to the next item. A zone classification change at the property located along the future Friendswood Lakes Boulevard, West Ranch, and Friendswood Lakes subdivision to change from planned unit development PUD 2019-11 and single-family residential for a residential development, Avalon at Friendswood, to a revised plan unit development. Aubrey, if you could provide the staff summary.
Well, this app.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. I was thinking, sorry about that.
That's okay. It's all right.
So that's number 2. Okay, the applicant withdrew the application for this zone change, therefore no public comments will be heard at this time. Seeing no further comments, the public hearing is now adjourned. Okay, the Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting is called to order. We will now receive any communications from the public or committee liaisons to the commission. To comply with provisions of the Open Meetings Act, the commission may not deliberate on subjects discussed under this agenda item. However, the commission may direct such subjects be placed on a later regular commission agenda for discussion and/or possible action. Is there anyone from the public or committee liaisons that would like to speak at this time? If you could step forward, please, sir, and state your name.
I'm Bill Dalton with Taylor Morrison, and we've submitted to you guys previously the plan for an Avalon community. In fact, received a zoning change back in May. We found out yesterday that we'll be able to acquire both sides of the big lake and would like to, that's why we pulled our plan, and would like to resubmit for your consideration a larger project. So we'll be submitting that next month. Just wanted you to know why we withdrew our request.
Great.
Thank you.
Great. Looking forward to it. Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to make any comments?
So, is it all right to do a committee liaison?
Yes.
Okay. So I'd just like to tell y'all how much fun I've had being your primary liaison to planning and zoning. And at our last council retreat, our last council meeting, we voted on Trish Hanks will now be your primary. I'll be your alternate. But I'm here, and I'd love to help however I can, but it's really been a pleasure. This is where I started, was planning and zoning. So y'all are doing a magnificent job, and I certainly expect to see that continue. You're in good hands with Trish.
Right. Well, thank you so, Sally, thank you so much for all the time and effort and help you provided us. Thank you.
Thank y'all. 50th anniversary stuff's going to the library when y'all done, if you want to come.
Okay, next is the consent agenda. These items are considered routine or ministerial in nature and will be enacted with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of items unless a commissioner or citizen so requests, in which case the item would be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the Planning and Zoning Commission June 13th, 2019 regular meeting?
Motion to approve.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Shows to be unanimous. Next on our agenda are the action items. According to the Planning and Zoning Rules of Procedure R 2019-15, all action of the commission shall be made by an affirmative vote of 4 or more members of the commission present at such commission meetings. Our first action item is consideration and possible action regarding a one-time 6-month site plan extension for Ranch Express to be located at 2210 South Friendswood Drive. Aubrey?
Yes, sir. This is a site plan that was originally approved in June of 2018. They had some unforeseen circumstances that they've been going through and working through. They are almost, I think, ready to submit for building permits and begin construction. And so the zoning ordinance does allow for a one-time 6-month extension for their site plan. So they should be able to get started and complete that project.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
No, sir.
I guess I'd just like to clarify. So the
statutes allow for a one-time extension, and if the building was not completed in 6 months, then what would happen?
As long as it's started in that 6 months, then they're good. If they don't start it within that 6 months, they would have to submit a whole new application and start over.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Shows to be unanimous. Okay. The next action item is consideration and possible action regarding a recommendation to City Council for the requested zone classification change at 402 East Edgewood Drive to change from plan unit development / specific use permit PUD / SUP 2015-26 to a revised plan unit development specific use permit to add NAICS use number 8121 personal care services. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Aubrey?
I don't really have anything to add. I just clarify, nothing on the site is changing. The buildings are going to remain as is, and they have sufficient parking for a nail salon in that front building.
Okay, Lisa? Anything?
This is in my neck of the woods. I'm very familiar with that area. It fits with the other services right next to them.
Marcus?
Good, thank you.
Okay, so I just had, I think, one quick question. Are there any other, most of the properties around this are planned unit development? Are any others with personal care services allowed? I mean, is this the only one in that section?
No, across, I think across 2351, you've got Bergamo's Spa there, and it's like medical office, it's mostly.
There's a hair cutting place.
There's the hair, yeah. So it's,
Dry cleaner.
I think, is in line with, it's not a real intense use that,
Right. But the planned use is a nail salon?
yes.
But there are other uses that would be allowed under that designation?
Yes. Beauty, like hair salon, nail salon, I think tattoo parlors may even fall under the personal care services. Is there any other? Yeah. So beauty, nail, like related kind of issue or uses.
Okay, no, thank you. Those are my only questions. Any other questions? We have a motion and a second. All in favor? 4-0 shows to be unanimous. Okay. Our next action item is consideration and possible action regarding a recommendation to City Council for the requested zone classification change at 103, 105, and 107 Shadwell Lane to change from Plan Unit Development 2016-01 to Revised Plan Unit Development. Is there a motion to approve?
Good.
Second?
I'll second it
Aubrey, anything else?
No, the uses that are allowed in this property are outlined in the existing PUD, as well as their setbacks, and they're in compliance with all of that.
Okay, great. Dick, any questions?
I'm a little unclear as to the use of the space. So there's 3 lots there, and they're talking about a single building spanning the 3 lots? Is that?
There's a building on 103, there's a building on 105, and this will be the new building on 107.
I see.
And it will match the ones that,
No, that's fine. That's great. The diagrams were showing all 3 properties, and that's what I was confused
The
about.
PUD covers all 3, so we had to include all three in the ordinance. But it's just the new building at 107.
Okay, all right, thank you. That's all.
Marcus, any?
Yeah, two comments or questions really. So when I was reading your rezoning report early in the flow in section J, it talks about that there has to be a complete application containing sufficient detail. Do you guys determine that before it gets to us, or okay, so we've met that bar?
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing, and I probably didn't read it carefully enough, running through all this material, but there was some words in there about a plan with the sidewalks. Is that a waiver or?
Yes,
Okay.
it was a waiver that was included in the previous PUD.
Okay.
Because they're doing on-street their parking is actually in the right-of-way, so there's really nowhere to put a sidewalk.
Okay. Couldn't they put a sidewalk on their property, not in the right of way?
They could, they would have to dedicate, they still have walkways like to the parking lot, they just don't have a sidewalk going
Across the three.
across the three, yeah.
So that's really my only concern is walking by there on busy times. You're forced to walk in the street, which it's a park area, so I'm okay with it. But I know we have other commissioners who are very concerned about sidewalks, so I wanted to make sure I asked. So if we decided to go and say that sidewalks were recommended from planning and zoning, that would have to apply to all three buildings? Or how would we do that?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, because it wouldn't make sense to put one,
Just
on
on
the
the
third lot,
107,
yeah.
right? Okay. I'm good as is. Thank you.
okay, you're welcome.
And there are walking trails all around, and on the other, just on the other side of the street, and right up to the one that was demolished. So I was looking for the same thing, and because it sits right there inside the park, really, it just didn't, it looked better to me without the sidewalk.
No argument there.
So,
That's great.
Lisa, anything else?
no, I really like the idea of the three matching buildings. I think it'll look really pretty.
Aubrey, there was a mention in there of existing parking spaces or some sort of licensing agreement. Where are those spaces? Is that the spaces out front, or is that?
Yeah, so there's been two license agreements. It's a little bit of history. When Chillin' Time was built in the old swimming pool building that used to be a daycare and a swimming pool, they built 9 parking spaces at that time. Then the property owner came in and built the building at 105 Shadwell, and they added a few more parking spaces, and Chillin' Time never did a license agreement with the city formally, so we formalized the license agreement at that time. And then, with the proposal of this building, we did a second license agreement with the same property owner owns all 3 of the lots currently. So we expanded that license agreement for him to build the additional parking spaces so that it's consistent all down. And then those lots are so small, and there's the floodway and the creek right behind them. So this enabled them to be able to rebuild those buildings on those lots. Part of the second license agreement was also for them to add a paved access to the city's overflow parking that's right beside 107. It's not a paved parking area or anything, it's just an empty lot that we use for overflow. So they'll provide us a paved little access up to that parking lot as part of that license agreement.
Okay, thank you. I read through it and I couldn't quite match it all up.
Yeah, no problem.
One last question. In making this change to a revised PUD, are there any changes in permitted uses?
No, everything else will stay. The only thing that's changing is the footprint and the elevations of the third building.
That
So,
was-
so that third building that flooded, was it the only one of the 3 that flooded in Harvey?
No, Gimme a Bark had water in it as well. And the second building wasn't there. They both had 18 inches?
We're going up above with the new building to the future map.
If,
You come up here.
yeah, please, if you could come up and state your name.
I'm Adam Hill, I'm the agent working on this. The first two buildings, Give Me a Bark and the middle office building, had about 18 inches, 16 to 18. But this new building will be above that. So if we don't get another Harvey, we're okay.
Yeah,
Or if we get him, we'll be okay if we get anything else.
that's exactly where I was going with my question. Thank you.
Thank you very much
Thank you.
for clarifying that. Any other questions?
I was just gonna, what are the permitted uses in that?
They are. This is another one that's been amended several times.
Is that detailed in that rezoning report?
Yes.
Is that where it comes from?
It's
Yeah.
page 50.
So finance and insurance, real estate, professional, scientific, and technical services, except for testing laboratories and veterinary services. And then in 2013, we added beauty salons.
Okay, no further comments. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Shows to be unanimous. Okay, the next action item is consideration and possible action regarding a recommendation to City Council for the requested zone classification change at the property located along the future Friendswood Lakes Boulevard between West Ranch and Friendswood Lake subdivisions to change from a planned unit development 2019-11 and single-family residential for a residential development Avalon at Friendswood to a revised planned unit development. The application has been withdrawn, so there is no action. Our next item is consideration and possible action regarding future planning and zoning commission meeting dates. Aubrey?
Our next regular meeting will be Thursday, July 25th, and the one after that would be Thursday, August 8th. And isn't it so nice to not have to reschedule meetings all the time?
Good. Next on our agenda are communications. Do any of the commissioners have anything they wish to communicate, suggestions for future agenda items or general comments, or any updates from liaison assignments? Marcus?
From my liaison assignment to the Drainage District, I went there. I had not told them that we changed our meeting dates, so I made sure that they understood that. Not that they need to be here, but just let them know that there was a change. And the other thing I wanted to point out, there was a substantial amount of discussion there with the development at the corner of Leisure Lane, where we have all of the Chipotle and those things that we've recently voted in. So there was a significant amount of discussion about maintenance of the retention pond. So no action on our part, but it was quite a focus on theirs, so I felt obligated to at least bring it up here. I'm not sure if there was action for us early on in the development to ask questions about the maintenance of those retention ponds. So it's just information for me to bring back to you all. I think they had a plan for addressing it. So other than that, that wraps up my report. And welcome.
So we do ask, questions all the time about whether that building that particular item causes problems with retention, water retention, and what they have in place, and do they have to build into. But we have never asked about maintenance once it's put in place.
Yeah.
Is that an area where maybe we need to make more consideration whenever?
They did not ask for that.
So there's actually, I have an update on that. The property owner actually met with the general manager of the Drainage District on site today to get a plan. They were out there mowing today and discussing maintenance issues for the pond. So there is, Vergata Commons has obtained ownership of that reserve for that whole, that serves the Howard subdivision. and they formed a property owners association so that all the property owners can help contribute towards the maintenance of that detention pond. So that has been formalized. They, I think, just kind of got behind the curve with construction.
Plenty of rain recently.
Yeah, building their new buildings, they got a little distracted. So they, like I said, they met on site today with the drainage district and are addressing it.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Lisa, any comments from you? And I had none for tonight. So next, Ms. Haynes. I have nothing. Oh, could you please come up to the podium? We all want to make sure we capture all of your comments.
Trish Hanks, I'm your new council liaison. I'm happy to be here, and I have nothing new to report tonight.
You know, our last liaison usually brought like cookies.
That's what I heard.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm up in that game. a little
Every
bit.
time. by the
Yeah,
way.
every time. Cook chocolate chip. I heard. Yeah, I heard.
Okay, it was worth a try. Okay. Staff, Aubrey.
The May-June 2009 DRC report, I failed to put in your original email, but I forwarded it today. And then, you want to tell them the good news?
If you did not attend council's meeting, so all the work we did on the Scenic City application paid off. We passed up silver and we hit gold like we were planning on.
Congratulations.
And we passed up gold and hit platinum.
No way.
Oh,
Fantastic.
wow.
So they are going to feature us at the awards ceremony in a few months. And we sent them some great pictures to use to put up on the big screen and put on their website. So we are going to get some cool new signs at the city limits when you enter
All right.
that are a little bit better than our adjacent neighboring cities level. So it is definitely some good bragging rights for the city.
Yeah.
Excellent
That's
work.
Thank you
Thank
to
y'all.
all of you for all your help.
Oh, great. Sorry, anything else, Becky? No, thank you. Mary Kay?
I have nothing to report except Trish makes a really good, was that a chocolate chip bread or something? Cake, yes, yes.
Okay. Jeff, anything for us? Okay. Well, with that, the Planning and Zoning regular meeting is now adjourned.